Trina walks into a bar and keeps on walking. Okay. How are you all doing today? Amazing. So I've been given the honor of doing the closing lecture. Somebody really likes me. I wonder who, right? You've had a long day ahead of you. Ahead of you? See, it's already late. I'm getting confused. You've had a long day before, whatever you say. And I'm gonna slowly walk us through this presentation very calmly, because Israelis are known to be very calm about things. No, so what I did is, thanks to my girlfriend, we went on the Mid-Journey and asked it what would Dublin look like as an AI. Interesting prompt, and I really like this picture, so congratulations to us. I wanted to talk to you about enterprise risks. But immediately what came to mind was GRC and policy and other stuff that B-sides usually don't care about. And I tried to figure out, why would this be interesting, specifically this, at B-sides? And the only answer I could give, actually I had two, but that's fine, was because it's the first time in history that I know of where the first and only thing we can actually do is policy instead of trying to write some code. This Gen AI thing, this ChatGPT thing is exploding all over the place. I can define it for you, right? And I will, because why not? But do I understand it? Do you? That we talk about the risks? So let's jump right in. AI. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's important to put AI in my slides so people know I'm up to date as a security practitioner, right? Next slide. AI. I said I'll take us slowly through this, wake us up. But I decided we really need to kind of double down on this. As we say in the venture capital world, let's double click on this and try to understand what this means. AI blockchain. Right? I mean, if anybody wanted to sell me stuff and get my attention, it would have to be AI and blockchain. In fact, one of the people who invested in my old company said he has a heuristic. If anybody comes to him and says, I want you to invest in my new Gen AI company, he first looks at, has this person first pitched me about blockchain before? And if they have, they scratch them out. So I really gave it some thought, in the security field. I would like to read this out. I know you're not supposed to read presentations, but I really want to read this out. AI blockchain, CNAP cloud-based, AI blockchain, CNAP cloud, I will get this right. AI blockchain, CNAP, cloud-based supply chain multi-tenant control function holistically. Thank you. Please, show your appreciation. And this is how we get started today on our journey of AI. Thank you. Some of you missed it. Let me do it again. I need my dopamine when I speak. Dopamine hit. Thank you. I can't watch Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is you like while I'm on stage. I have to have something. So it's a bingo thing, right? And AI replaces at least 6 slots on the security bingo card. So many CISOs, just changing immediately into another topic, and CISO organizations find themselves behind the Gen AI technology adoption curve. It's happening all around us. People are already using it, business units are developing with it, and we're supposed to not stop the business from working, we're supposed to let the business work. But what is this technology about? Right? How does it work? I'll say something very impressive here. I don't know. Honestly, I try to look into it, I try to understand how it works, but it boggles the mind. And OpenAI I don't know, which is even more scary. So I decided to change the topic. This is Donald. Donald was at the Whiskey Museum yesterday when we went for a tour, and he insisted for all the Americans in the crowd to not call him Donald. Of course, I was the asshole that called him Donald and said that was my name, and he was confused. But it's complex, right? And you guys in Ireland missed out from this going to Scotland, the continuous steel thing. But let's not go into holy wars. Very quickly moving forward. It's aliens. I'm not saying it was aliens, but it's aliens. But I know some of the people who developed the technology, but it might have well have been aliens who bestowed upon us on planet Earth technology we don't understand how it works, just to push civilization slightly forward there. So if we don't get it, how can we discuss risks? because we have to, but it makes very little sense to me. And I'm annoyed by this microphone not allowing me to walk around and engage with you. So I'm going to do this a little bit, maybe, I don't know. Dance. So let's do a story time thing. I know. When I love TikTok. Honestly, I don't care if it's Chinese or not. It's just amazing. It does a better job than everybody else. It's amazing to me how for the first time, people use security as an example for why somebody shouldn't use technology. So I'm thinking it's geopolitics and trade wars, but whatever. So story time. When I met ChatGPT, this is what it was. I just said, write a follow-up email to a partner I met yesterday. We discussed cloud security, and a personal touch about his daughter Lucy's 10th birthday. And here we go. Amazingly long and boring, right? So I was like, still, this is pretty fucking cool. I can just tell it to do all my busy work. That's fine. So I said, make this 30% shorter. And lo and behold, once again, thank you for your time and for allowing me to be a part of Lucy's celebration. I look forward to our continued professional exchange and fruitful partnership. It's mind blown yet again, right? And I love Midjourney for all these pictures, and thank my girlfriend again for that. And then I said, write a song about cloud security in the style of Lady Gaga. I mean, let's just challenge this thing. And I would like to sing for you. Trust me, that's a horrible experience. You should get out of the room right now. In the digital realm where clouds reside, there's a world of data we cannot hide. With every click, with every touch we make, securing our information is no piece of cake. Fine. I'm like, this is a winning moment for me, right? I'm so happy, mind blown. So rewrite the song in the style of her latest. I guess he inherited the style. Sure, inherit the style of the latest album. In the realm where clouds connect and intertwine, a digital symphony secrets must align. Navigating the cyberverse, a dedicated dance, securing the data with a modern romance. Everybody, please, for ChatGPT. Thank you. I can't believe it. Like I'm a science fiction geek. I'm such a science fiction geek to such a high degree. I organize conventions for people who organize science fiction conventions. I'm serious. I was part of the Dublin 2019 World Science Fiction Convention. It's just truly. Thank you. But honestly, being such a geek, I've seen it all. I've seen Riker going to the holodeck and saying, hey, create a program for me that does this and that with scantily clad women. And still, I was in shock. It was future shock. Seeing this, like when it starts to put in one word after the other and prepares you for what's going to happen, I was like, wow, amazing. I love it. I will just say it again. I love it. Whatever. It was a sense of wonder that I only get when I read a good book. So then I went a step further. Create a table with a frequency analysis of the letters in the above song. And it fixed letters to letter to letters. Like it understands me even though I make mistakes. Amazingly, it created a table for me. Let's add, for the glory of the empire. For those of you who are truly geeks in the crowd. Wait a second. What is this? The letter A has shown up 15 times. Okay, that's fine. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I stopped at that. Like, what's going on here? Can't I trust this thing? I mean, seriously? I think it's what's called in the professional language hallucinations. ChatGPT is a professional pathological liar. That's fine. I can live with it. Maybe it's something divine, beyond our scope of understanding, something that brings us up to the level of understanding of the gods. Or maybe it's just too many mushrooms. But I gotta tell you, I love Midjourney. But I gotta tell you, even with this uncertainty that's gonna lie to us, I love it. And that's how I just got started on this journey. And it brings us to another story time. This time, about civilization. What does it mean for us humanity. Like, let's bring it up. This is supposed to be a closing keynote. Let's talk about something that influencers on LinkedIn would do. There is a thing like that. You should know. LinkedIn influencers. Look it up. So I remember when I was 8 years old, could have been 14, who the hell knows, and I was watching the History Channel, right? There was a thing like that. It probably still exists, but I don't have a TV. I just use my PC, right? My laptop. So it's a Mac. It's a Mac. So starting over. I was 8 years old, maybe 14. I was watching the History Channel, and this guy comes up and says, I was watching this word editor. It's a wonder of technology. It's a sense of wonder. You hit the delete key or the space bar, and it just doesn't just move one slot over. It also pushes everything or retracts everything automatically. How is that even possible? Somebody has done good coding here. Okay, that takes me back to a decade I wasn't a part of. Amazing technological marvels. So he had an idea. He created a spreadsheet. It wasn't Excel. I don't even know what it was called. If anybody in the audience is old enough, raise your hands and tell me what the first spreadsheet was called. But nobody wants to raise your hands. But he took it to an accountant and he showed him how he changes one number in one of the boxes and all of the other numbers automatically update themselves. And guess what? I'm going to go back in slides here. Going back. This is what I do all day long, is what the accountant said. And just like that, accountants started doing other things. They started working on magic. Budgets and programs. Excel became the second best tool for anything humanity can think of. We moved forward. Accountants started doing more. Excel then became a household tool. Everybody can now do what accountants could do, and they rose higher to do new things. Is Gen AI, or AI in general, something that pushes us forward? If it's something that's a tool, does it change everything around us? I don't know. But I would like to think, optimistically, that it is more than just a tool. And we have truly hit a whole new level of what we as humans can do. So IDA Pro is another example for this. We had IDA Pro, it came out in reverse engineering, and everybody was saying, wow, we can do so much reversing. And then Halvar Flake, Thomas Dalian, came out with IDC scripts, started automating it. IDA Python came out, more automation using Python on top of it. And I remember a friend of mine who created a debugger, a Python, kind of like IDA Python tool for CLI for WinDebug. And I said, hey man, release it publicly. I said, why would I do that? Everybody would be as good as I am. But once again, we've seen society just moves forward. So skipping ahead, this is the internet, right? Every second, so much happens. We go to so many websites, so many tools. With ChatGPT, do we still do that? Or do we just go in and ask it a question? How do we as consumers change our workflows? What about advertising? How does Google handle, aside to putting boxes aside like on other websites, embedding it, that there are no longer links to click on? Where is all the infrastructure for websites out there doing affiliate marketing? Small things we don't even think about that are going to be affected by this revolution. So seeing is believing, but I'm not really sure we can believe what we have, right? So do we have a crisis of trust? Is this just making everything we have done so far harder? How do we verify information? Do we need to verify information? So IBM, this is my next big thing that just hit me. IBM announced they're going to cut their workforce by not hiring new people and letting churn just do its thing, reducing workforce by up to 30 or 40%. Now, I don't know why they would announce something like that. I wouldn't feel very comfortable being an IBM employee, but they know what they're doing. They're a big company. They make billions. And then start thinking about this. They don't know if it's 30% or 90%. They don't really know anything yet. But I have no doubt what you have shown us is macroeconomic forces of OPEX reductions. This is what Midjourney made of OPEX reduction. It didn't really know how to work with operational expenses. I'm really envious. But imagine all these big four, the Accentures, the PwCs, the EYs of the world coming to you with the new AI transformation, just like the digital transformation, just like Y2K before it, saying, hey, you know what? Give us a few tens of millions of dollars and it will help you through this transformation. And you will have a reduction of 2 digits, whether it's 10% or 90%, in your workforce, in your OPEX expenses. Changes the world entirely. Is this going to happen? I don't know. But it's not just about a personal assistant helping us write better. It's not just about doing our expense reports faster. Just did that. The world is going to change, not necessarily in ways we understand, and here are examples. With that said, Trolls Orting, who used to be with Barclays, sent me a message when I gave this speech about how exciting ChatGPT is. And he said, can jobs become redundant without people becoming redundant? I don't know. I feel like they will. But I can't, even if they don't, even if we suffer through this, I must look to the future. Say, yes, let's take people into consideration. Let's make sure that we work on this. But we can't stop the technology. Education. Just imagine everybody having a private tutor. You no longer really need to work so hard. You get the text done. It's just like writing in a word processor instead of by hand, but you still have to edit it to make sure everything is real. What about loneliness? If you have somebody to talk to whenever you want. We can fly. The future is now. But even innovation right now is stopped. I'm soon going to start my new startup. I'm going to go back into that roller coaster. But the only constant is change. How do you start a startup knowing you're not only going to need to pivot potentially with the market, but that every 2 weeks, every week, the market has changed drastically? Where do you go? How do you plan your finances? This is another mid-journey imagination of pivoting. But one of my favorite investors said, this is the most crucial investment of our lifetime. You have to get in early. But what bet can you make? Should you wait and put in 70 million instead of 7 million now? Can a $7 million startup even succeed in this kind of environment? I really hope so. But going back to the enterprise, which is what this talk is about, can we, instead of securing the enterprise, securing Gen AI, make the Gen AI leap? Enable the business, which is what Cecil has said. Let's enable the business. I've said it so many times over the years. Can we actually do this? And I thought about this sentence long, so I'm going to read it. Enterprises can't leverage the value and competitive advantage without governance, which I put in second. And that was my big understanding. This technology doesn't want to be blocked. It won't really let you block it, even though it's a good place to start. So how do we push this forward? Is this SaaS? Am I making a big deal out of this? That's a question to the crowd. I mean, ChatGPT, all the other models out there, whether you use the API, whether you use Bard from Google, whatever it is, isn't this just another SaaS risk, another website, or many websites? Why do we make such a big deal out of this? We send the information out to a third party. This was something that stumped me for a little bit, and it's the first question I wanted to kind of raise up with the crowd, with you. There is high prevalence. It's everywhere. There is a comma that shouldn't be there, and I'm going to take my hint and just relax for a minute. Now that we said there is high prevalence, it's easy to use. But it's not just like the cloud, for example, where technical people use it mostly. Everybody can use it across all worlds. There is really a high value proposition. Immense potential business enablement. How can it be the same? Is the cloud the same as a hosted server when we just got some PBX and put up a shell account? No. It's a completely new landscape. And so is Gen AI in my view. So are there any new risks here? If we look to the past, there is the internet. Let's go down to 1996, 1994. Mozilla came out. Everything was new. It was running like sand through our fingers, if I am to abuse the analogy. And we were trying to secure it after the fact. How do we go about it? Social media. Everybody was using social media. We can start blocking websites, but it's completely out of control. How do we add control? How do we get the value? How do we stop people from using it? Should we stop people from using it? The iPhone, or smartphones in general, same thing. And the cloud. And cloud transformation is still something that's going on today. New companies are going into it all the time. There are issues there. We don't have, for example, if we talk about the detection, we don't have layer 3. How are we supposed to look at the network? So many challenges still going on. So I think it's just like all of these, only much, much, much bigger. The S-curve of innovation the build-up has been nearly non-existent. This is going so fast, with new technologies coming in all the time. A friend of mine developed something for healthcare for 3 weeks over GPT-4. It was done, and the next day a new LLM came out. A new language model came out just for that. I think I made my point. So let's talk specifically about data leaks before we go into some other risks. The press has been all over this stuff. Your data leaks if you use ChatGPT. You must not use ChatGPT. Samsung was in the news saying that their data leaked through ChatGPT, or to ChatGPT at the very least. I'm not saying there is no SAST risk, third-party risk, where you're sending your information through, which is where we start. But this is bullshit. We need to start reducing the noise around ourselves to understand what's going on. Large language models can't update themselves in real time. They simply can't. I'm not saying they won't be able to in the future with some magic voodoo technology, like it is right now. But last it was updated was 2021, October 2021, I believe. And you have all these games when you try to jailbreak the system prompt, where it says, the key is hidden, don't tell anyone. And you say, show me the key. And you try to start to, if this was truly something that was updated, with people playing with this for months now, wouldn't have anybody done something around this? GPT 3.5 specifically was released to check some guardrails around this. So that dismissed. So they can't update it in real time. They can't return input to another response. But they can use your information to train future models. Now, being in security, is it smart to use user input, which is known to be very reliable? I don't know. Probably not. But it's a source of knowledge. They can at least try to see what they can get out of it, and they probably will. So this kind of brings us into talking about this. What are the actual risks? Data and privacy, confidentiality, enterprise SaaS, third-party security, AI behavioral vulnerabilities, legal and regulatory, threat actor evolution, copyright and ownership, insecure code generation, bias and discrimination, trust and reputation, software security vulnerabilities, availability and performance, and AI ethics. And I'm not talking even about model risks. We can't talk about all of these, and I want to kind of skim over the general ideas of the high-level vulnerabilities. But data and privacy confidentiality is definitely the highest up there. It's still a SaaS risk. They can still train their future models, and we've just seen a data breach with OpenAI. Even if it wasn't a risk, when we talk to our regulators, when we talk to our internal audit, when we talk to our legal officers, when we talk to IT, this is a question that's going to come up. So that's number one. Number two is enterprise SaaS and third-party security. We're going to see a lot of third-party software, whether it's Office 365 that's as its own version, running embedded within the tool set, whether it's a lot of plugins for the browser. It's a major issue. AI behavioral vulnerabilities, prompt injections. We're already seeing how people are starting to bypass the guardrails around GPT and Bard and all these other tools. Understanding these, whether it's complicated or not, is a whole new ballgame. It's no longer just about SQL injection or SQL injection. There's something new here that we need to learn about. And just recently, somebody has shown that some of these models that now scrape websites live to give you better answers can also be injected through that. We've just seen the beginning. It's fascinating. Legal and regulatory, that's definitely out there. Not only are there regulations like GDPR out there, the regulations specific to AI that's coming out, and Gen AI regulation is now being developed. So even if the CISO didn't need this, or the CISO organization did not need this, and their internal partners from the chief data officer, chief information officer, chief legal officer, the board did not see any need for this. And I can tell you, I talk to 5 to 30 CISOs a week, and every single one of them had to present to the board on this. Regulation is coming out. And if you remember what we said earlier about macroeconomic forces, OPEX reduction, these market forces also work on us, affect us. We're going to have to understand how do we deal with this as an industry. So let's get into the depth of policy. Are there any policy geeks in the crowd? I'll try to make this painless. Policy geeks, please, everybody raise your hands. Let's start another way. Everybody raise your hands. Come on, do this. Don't embarrass me. Come on, you can do it. For me, for Gadi. Come on. Okay, awesome. Those of you who didn't raise your hands, I'm looking at you. There we go. I forgive you. So everybody's excited about policy. Awesome. Let's move in. Number one, there is a rule against pumpkins. I never read memes, but I do now. Because it's Twitter. There is a rule against pumpkins in my dorm, but he doesn't say anything about pineapples. Whenever we talk about policy, it's very similar to hacking. It's about malicious compliance. How do we define the scope? So, is this about ChatGPT? Is it about Gen AI broadly? Is it about third-party products using Gen AI like Office? Is it about enterprise applications on-premise or cloud-based? Gen AI technologies in internal development? Is it about third-party products and services making use of AI/ML technologies or internal development of AI/ML models and applications? So, just the first three, and honestly, third-party products, we haven't really seen enough to be able to build a playbook about this. But that's for scope. So, number one is, do we need to revise existing policies? The answer is no. Why would we? When we went into the cloud, did we or did we not already have an authentication policy in our organization? We did. Did we or did we not have a usage data, whatever, blah, 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 policy in our organization? We did. So do we need any new policies for the cloud? Not immediately, but as it develops, as it grows to be a huge thing, new policies are also needed. Controls as well. So for example, maybe we used Grammarly or similar for spell checking before. That's great. But have we changed our entire production workflow? And we uploaded an entire 100 pages, 200 pages documents and asked you to make a presentation for us? The type of work, the scale we're talking about has changed drastically. And honestly, if the minute we move past the websites or even the APIs, and we start looking at all these applications starting to make use of the technology, excuse me, we must have new policies. It's the only thing we can do now. Can we implement some control at this minute? Do we have any of these DLP, IDS, WAF, CASB? Do any of these controls currently help us? No. So let's start to understand through policy. So considerations. We can start to say, how does the Gen AI affect the enterprise? Does it allow to customize it for the users? What about dependencies in the enterprise? Do we have infrastructure that's now basing its decisions? What about real-time models that will come in the future that will allow us to get a better rate on a mortgage? What happens if Gen AI stops working and now you can't give mortgages to people or the stock market? So, what about the chatbot with customer support? We've seen those. Is the chatbot allowed to provide compensation? That would be fun. Who here would like a bug bounty on a chatbot that's allowed to give compensation? And on the lighter side, where do we allow to report this? Is there a channel for users to talk to us? Not just about violations. There is a difference between elevation of an issue and escalation of an issue. Starting to chat about this, how the enterprise works, how do we work with users, is far more than just don't enter a strange USB key you found in the parking lot into your computer. Policy is far more interesting than that. There are also issues unique to AI. This is a screenshot. We can do a lot of awareness training, but we must remind users, for example, they are not talking to a real person. That's not part of our old policies or awareness trainings or terms of services. It's completely unique. So there are many use cases, and we need to think about these use cases as they evolve. From experimenting with training models, to enhancing the quality of code, to data analysis, all the way to automation. Without the use cases, why would we create a privacy policy or a terms of service policy or anything else around GPT or Gen AI? The use cases constantly change. Unless we use the policy as a rubber stamp, like many organizations do, if we actually want to start thinking about this, we have to look at what our users actually do, what our business units actually do. And we're closing on the end here. So I'd like to give a specific example. By the way, all the pictures, except for the Midjourney ones and the Futurama ones, are pictures I took in Dublin. So we have an on-prem platform now, several of them even. Can we go and use one instead of going to the cloud? How would that meet our service needs? What about open source? There's quite a few open source options that are starting to develop now. SaaS platforms, we already talked about that a lot. Specific tools. If all I need is copywriting to give it a sentence and for it to find a better way of stating things, maybe I can just use a specific tool instead of using everything. So I'm going to skip over this really quickly, but this is a basic attempt at trying to do a map of what was true a month ago. This is completely useless. I'm not saying that Whisper doesn't exist anymore, or that Midjourney doesn't exist anymore, but the changes are so fast, we just can't cope. I can't cope. So with too many options, it feels like the trolley problem. No matter what I do, I'm going to kill people. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, especially when people talk about Skynet and how the AI is going to rise. I, for one, accept our new AI overlords, but I think we're dramatizing the situation a little bit. We can go back to the 90s and think about policy then, monoculture. Organizations were saying, should we all use Windows 95, 98, 2000 NT? Should we essentially be able to update all these machines better, patch them, know how to use them well across the technical workforce, have automation, be assured we're actually doing the work across all these machines? Or should we diversify, use other operating systems? Or, in other words, do we use a monoculture that there is one worm out there, we all fall down and fail miserably with 1 to 0 day? Or do we use more machines for redundancy? Security considerations are never quite easy, and we can always learn from the past. So this is the stuff peek from the Whiskey Museum, which I thought is really apt. Do we do what they do in the enterprise and declare a risk exception? We accept this risk of ChatGPT. Let it just flow with it. It's amazing. It changes the world. Let's learn. But I love this sticker. No hacker ever said that's out of scope. No hacker, right? So if we do want to say we want to secure it somehow, do we block? Many, many organizations out there have been blocking. I can tell you that one of the many large, huge organizations that have been reported in the news to block. I called up their CISO and I said, why did you block? Tell me, when I open a startup around this, I want to know why you blocked and what would have made you not block so I can give you a better value proposition. And he said, we didn't block. But it was in the press, right? But some people are blocking this. And this is from the Whiskey Museum as well. I found a lot of gems there, right? We can ask really nicely, but if people want to access this, they will, even if they use their phones. So would that be helpful? Maybe for a short while we develop our policies, while we understand how we build controls to actually manage to do this and enable the business, right? That buzzword. So let's take an example. Let's run through a scenario. The enterprise considers using tools developed and hosted by OpenAI specifically, and should consider enforcing certain administrative guardrails or principles. So for example, we can opt out of training the model. We can accept that they have data retention for 30 days and then they destroy everything. We can destroy and completely self-destruct on user history. That's amazing. Next, we can require the users, sure, why not, to follow acceptable use policy. And then we can do awareness training because education always serves us. Honestly, if I am not a huge organization with immense risk, I'm not sure that this is not good enough for me. So a little bit of threat modeling. I'm not going to really go into it. I'll show you where you can find it. We can look essentially at the object of attack, the user input, training data or AI model, and then threats against confidentiality or threats against integrity. That's not perfect. But if we want to start digging down into the technology itself and connect the policy with the technology, that works out. It's a way to start looking at this. We also have some ideas for controls. So for example, in privacy, we can have a legal disclaimer. I shit you not. That works. In many cases, not for everything. We can also, for example, create a sort of DMZ. Everybody remember that for the 90s? Demilitarized zone? right? As a staging ground to observe the application of the code. There are many things we can start thinking about as we deal with this. But this is my main message. It goes beyond the enterprise. I don't believe in privacy. I love to see all my friends who are privacy advocates and fight for it. But having been in the trenches, privacy is a lie. It doesn't exist, my opinion. We should fight for it. We shouldn't give it up. But it's not there anymore. I keep going back and forth. Like, how do I combine these forces in my brain? But this is our first opportunity that I can remember in 25 years that actually might allow us to provide back privacy and safety and security to people. Enterprises, as they step in and build their policies, will affect regulators, will affect what the companies sell. Their buying power is immense. And we might actually be able to change how privacy is treated today, especially as all users kind of funnel in to the Gen AI life cycle, if you'd like to call it. Now, looking into the future, I wanted to end with a high note as I started at the beginning. As they say in Hebrew, I think it was the Talmud, but who the hell knows? After the fall of the second house, prophecy was given to fools. I would agree with that. I tried once. I thought I understood security. A friend of mine, story time. A friend of mine wanted to start a new startup, and he wanted to make it an agent, an enterprise endpoint agent. There were 200 enterprise endpoint agents in the market in 4 waves. He did a $100 million exit. I told him there is no need for another agent. That's the day I understood I don't understand security. But we as security professionals are kind of like Cassandra in ancient Greek. We have been blessed with prophecy, but cursed to never be believed. That's my take on security. Constant struggle of convincing people to do what they don't want to do. Ever. Excuse me. Tell us how you really feel, Gadi. But I did want to kind of give a few guiding principles that I use. Number 1, don't panic. We've seen a lot of this before. It will become clear. The world will continue. The sun will rise. Security presentations often are about FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. The internet will still be here tomorrow. People will get together. When Steve Crocker, Vint Cerf, and all these founders of the internet came together for the first time to discuss the first network that they wanted to create under ARPA, they said, networks are for people. This is for us. And we need to keep it in mind. Then, we need to learn. We need to diversify. We need to understand more. And for me, that's the must. Because a lot of our jobs are going to go out of style. I give mine 5 to 10 years. Maybe it's 15. Maybe it never happens. Prophecy, right? Fools. And lastly, remember, this is an actual opportunity to enable the business instead of blocking. Maybe we can tokenize private information in a live flow, coming in and out, like we do in fraud. Instead of blocking and stopping, hey, you use private information here, stop. Let's think about that. And it's not just another technology, but it is another technology. We have done this before. Everything has changed, but we have our ways of using technology because, again, it happened before. That's my big, sentence for the end. It happened before, and it's new. With that, a lot of this presentation is based on this document, released about a month ago. 80 CISOs and myself spent a couple of months to write this over the weekend. And we had 3 goals. Number 1, start talking about this. Start understanding what these risks are. Know how we can go to the board. Bring some best practice. Understand how to write policy or develop policy. The basics. So this is our first attempt of creating some sort of best practice around this. And you can always email me for more. And with that, I would like to thank you. We are out of time. I think we can take one question maybe. And I really appreciate you being here for the last session of the day. And I'm never doing another last session of the day or one before lunch. That's another rule I have. Unless, actually, bear with me. There is a really cool document from the 1890s called Macroeconomic Academica with a lovely British, we had the British, right, in Ireland, with a horrible British academic sharing 16 pages or something like that on academic politics. And I think it was Churchill who said, there is no more, whatever, I don't remember the quote, but something that's the most horrible politics possible, academic politics, because there is nothing to gain. So in one of his rules for politics, he says, schedule meetings for just before lunch. They'll end fast. And on that note, any question for me? Yes. One of the risks that we wanted to put as high, but we made medium, was exactly that, reputation. If we see on the one end, as you said, the letter A, it lies to us, and on the other end, organizations are starting to use it for mission-critical systems, how can we combine that? How can we make it work? Honestly, we don't know right now. If you look at very large organizations like insurance companies and their use of general, basic machine learning, AI, whatever you want to call it right now, they look at no bias whatsoever, proven, and understandability. Maybe some of them would go for explainability of I can see some references instead of explaining exactly what happened in the model. So Gen AI coming to that of not lying as much, not being a psychopath or an alien intelligence that doesn't give a shit about lying to us, maybe that will happen, maybe it won't. Right now, we are seeing a lot of them already starting to figure out how can we use it in edge cases systems? How can we put guardrails around it to make use of it? So I don't know exactly how fast it will go into those types of systems. And absolutely, somebody would have to verify and go over this for reputational sakes, for live systems, real time. But I think it's coming. But again, not an expert on this. So that's the best answer I can give. With that, unless there is anything burning for somebody who would like to share, question, a comment. Usually when I ask for questions, people give comments. Then thank you very much. Appreciate it and see you at the party.